Welcome once again to Living in the 21st Century. Joining me today is former Minister of Transportation in the Ukraine, Vasil Shevchenko. Vasil, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Hello, nice to see you. Nice to hear our listeners.
Well, Vasil, it seems that there's a lot good things going on in the Ukraine despite of this war. The Ukrainians is taking back their land, and they're doing it with vitality and optimism. And Putin is running. He's back in the corner. There's a lot of problems he has in his country trying to get 300 young men to be drafted into his army to fight the Ukrainians. Most of them are running and fleeing to other countries. He's blocking the highways. There's protesting in his country. He's running out of artillery. He's consistently getting taken out by the Ukrainian army. And the list goes on. He's back up between a rock and a hard place. So that somewhat could be very dangerous. And I asked this question. This guy is a dangerous guy. Do you think he would really want to use tactical nuclear weapons at this point?
I think that I'm not able to comment person who is unpredictable. Because I know that their type of power has no any limits. Always based at his personal decision, and his personal decision it's meaning better to say think one old person who cannot estimate real situation in your world and in his country, and because of it, from time to time we can hear threatening Ukraine and world nuclear weapon. Just imagine that they are threatening Ukraine, which is maybe for people less than Russia. We don't have nuclear weapon. And they announced that they lost in Ukraine only 5,000 their soldiers. And after that, they announced drafting procedure around Russia. And they announced that they are going to form new army from 300 to million, because this information is confident, and we don't know which armies they are going to form against Ukraine. And just imagine, second biggest army in the world decided to form new army to fight against Ukraine, and they are threatening us nuclear weapon. And we have no nuclear weapon, and according to the agreement which was signed in early zeros, that they guarantee Ukraine security, and they guarantee that they will help us in any branches. And as a result, they captured about 20% Ukraine territory. They have started offensive operation to Ukraine territory, and as a result, they decided to join for Ukrainians region to Russia Federation. I cannot predict this person, and I think any person around the world can predict his further behavior and what type of weapons they are threatening. We know that our friends in United States and European country understand it because Russians, we know that they are living in parallel world, and for them, Russia's power called this operation so-called special operation. But it's real war. It's biggest war in Europe since Second World War. And just imagine that they decided to attack capital of Ukraine in the spring, and as a result, they were driven out from Ukraine territory by Ukrainian forces and territorial defense forces. And now, when he was announcing joining this territory to Russia Federation, Ukraine army was continuing retaking territory, and since our last conversation, since late of August, Ukraine forces managed to drive away Russia's forces for 2,400 square kilometers. And during the last week, Ukrainian forces at the right bank of Dnieper managed to drive them, Russia's forces, away for 774 square kilometers. We are continuing our liberating our territory, and at the same time they are threatening us nuclear weapon, because second biggest army cannot fight against weak and isn't so strong like Russia Federation country. And we understand that we have done it with Western support, with support from United States, from European countries, from NATO countries, and all these countries have supplied us a lot of ammunition and a lot of military machine, tank, arm carriers. But at the same time, the biggest number of military ammunition was captured by Ukrainian forces from Russia Federation. You can see that it's the biggest number of tanks which were captured by Ukrainian forces from Russia Federation, who were retreating from our territory. And all this news, positive news for Ukraine, for every Ukrainian, because we are living under real threat every day. You know that Russians bought from Iran thousands of drones, which were directed and targeted for crucial infrastructure and residential houses. For example, one day before yesterday, they killed 18 civilians, and one of them is child who were living in civilian residential house. And they are continuing shelling civilian blocks, Zaporizhia, and you know that they captured the biggest nuclear station in Europe, and they Zaporizhia's nuclear power station, and they are telling that it's Ukrainians who shelling the station. And at the same time, we can hear information from witnesses, residents, the cities, that they are shelling from motors who's located a couple of kilometers from this station. and they are running around the station and shelling the station just to make shootage for Russia's TV. And the same time as they continuing shelling Ukraine territory from Russia's territory. For example, today in the morning I visited the funeral ceremony. My friend, who's deputy squadron territorial defense battalion, which was taken to defend Ukrainian border, was killed at the battle line, and they were shelling from Russia's territory. Ukrainian forces didn't answer for it, and because of it, my friend was killed. And he was good soldiers, but Ukrainian forces don't shell Russia's territory. We defend our borders, and we pay higher prices. We pay Ukrainians' life. And because of it, I commented that we live our everydays with grief and with happy moment when we see when Ukrainian forces managed to recapture more and more territory. When we see that Western countries decided to help us, one or two maybe mortar systems, and all this information is really positive for us, which confirming that we are not alone, that we are fighting together, that we are fighting for our common rights, for democracy, and that Ukraine now at the age of battle with cruel autocracy, who has no any idea, instead of capturing and instead of killing civilians, children, elderly person. You see, they are not fighting with Ukrainian army. They are retreating when they see Ukrainian forces, but they are continue shelling civilian cities. For example, from Russia's territory, they are shelling heavy long-range missiles to Zaporizhzhia city. Why? Just to kill 20 Ukrainians? What do you want? What they want from us? They want us to stop fighting. No, we will continue our struggling for our interest, for every person, because we know that if they capture Ukraine territory, we could see what will be there. And I'd comment that it's our battle, and we will continue fighting and hope for our friends. And thank you for assistance, for help, for weapon, and for our cooperation.
Yes, one of the things I want to ask you, Vasil, you sent me the stats on Russia's losses, and it don't look good. And I said before, Putin is in a difficult place right now in his life, where he have the Russians rebelling against him in his own country. Hundreds of thousands of young men are fleeing the country because they don't want to get involved in the war. He is sending young men to fight in a war that they are not even trained for. The equipment that he has, military equipment for usage, is poorly maintained. Everything seems problematic right now in his hemisphere. And he becomes a desperate man. And my question is, when someone gets in a desperate situation, they can do some very serious things. And the world is looking at it. And when you and I first started to talk, I think I had asked you if you think this may be the beginning of World War III. It is mentioned and stated that if he proceeds to use nuclear weapons, he will have a catastrophic price to pay. Do you think at this juncture in Putin's life, just from your observation, that since Ukrainian is progressing so well and he didn't expecting this fierce fight or combat against him, do you think that he may resort really to nuclear weapons or he may be just bluffing? Which one?
First of all, I'd commented it the way we have had a lot of discussion in Ukraine. First of all, that missiles which has nuclear charges were produced in Ukraine and were given Russia Federation in exchange for our security in the future. And it took place in early 90s, and as a result, I had experts' opinion from Ukraine military plant who produced these missiles that they haven't been invited for servicing these missiles. And first of all, just imagine that new soldiers they drafted lately. It's soldiers who are arming weapon First World War and Second World War, and their tanks cannot be started, or if they can move, they cannot shell. And if we see this type of treating to maintaining their military ammunition, if they treated different to nuclear missiles, which is located at the Russia's territory, and it's first. And Defense Minister of Ukraine commented that they are not sure which place these missiles can explode in launch system above Russia's territory, or will fly farther at first. And second, this Russia's specialists who's responsible for this sphere are limited, and when they try to draft new soldiers, they decided to leave Russia. They decided not to go to army. They decided to leave and to go to neighbors' country who haven't prohibited them to cross the border, because European countries prohibited them to cross their border with a touristic purpose, and they now no one can say which number of people have fled from Ukraine, from Russia, and they are looking for a different place, because it's easy to fight with Ukrainians if you are sitting in front of computer or your gadget, but real war is different, and Russian society understands that if Russia's authorities decided to draft million new soldiers, it means that number of killed soldiers in war in Ukraine is different, and it isn't 5,000 now. It's about 62,000 Russians who were killed at the war in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And just imagine that if it's 62,000 killed soldiers, and just imagine that wounded soldiers 3 or 4 times more. It's about 200 soldiers who were killed or wounded in Ukraine, in the war in Ukraine. And it's something different from media about the world, and because Russia Federation media produce all they want. It's propaganda and type of propaganda, and people have no choice. They are listening around the clock information about their successful operation in Ukraine, but as a result, they received information that their relatives or acquaintances were disappeared in war or killed in the war. And this information is spreading through rumors, and they understand that it's really danger. And Ukraine army is with Western support is its strong army, and they commented at their media that Russia is fighting against NATO countries. They commented that they are fighting in Ukraine against all NATO countries, and because of it, they have received a lot of losses and a lot of lost operation at Ukraine. And the Ukrainian forces continue fighting. But we understand that our resources different. They have a lot of resources. They continue selling their oil, their gas, and their natural materials, and they have speculated the grain, for example, after blocking Ukrainian ports, they captured 4 Ukrainian ports, and 6 ports were blocked, and Ukraine now have no seaports. We have only ports at the Danube, and it allows us to continue trading with the world through Danube, through Poland, and through Romania port Constanța. And them decided with the assistance United Nations, we managed to export Ukrainian grain. It was called grain deal, and it allows us to provide poor countries and countries who had contract with United Nations to provide grain. But before, Russia Federation refused selling their grain. They are big producers of grain, and they are waiting rises prices for food, and it's chantage of world through food. And I'd commented it that all things now became a weapon, and they are trying to use it against world and against developed countries, and against countries who are limited in resources to provide their citizens essential products. And yes, sorry.
That's okay. Did the war had any serious impact on the export market for Ukraine in terms of grain and other byproducts, etc.?
Now I cannot say exactly, but Deputy of Prime Minister announced that Ukraine have lost different losses for about 450 billions American dollars. But them it's corrected that infrastructure in Ukraine was eliminated for 120 billions, and then were losses, companies, people's income we haven't received, and income on it's about 450 billions American dollars, I mean. And but no one can say exactly because now it's working a common group with World Bank and independent structure, which will tell it exactly. And at the same time, we cannot comment it results of their activities at occupied territory. Now we know that after capturing nuclear power station, they started threatening nuclear catastrophe. Then they changed their mind and decided to threat nuclear weapon. And then they started the proposal Ukraine to negotiate in different way concerning peace agreement or ceasefire, just to relocate their forces and continue war. Because we have had this experience from Russia Federation many times. It's type of behavior when they lie every day and every moment, and we cannot believe it. And you can see it when Russia's representatives has his speech in United Nations. He is speaking with Ukraine, threatening ordinary country that they will eliminate. For what? They captured 20% of our territory. They located their forces at our territory, and they continue killing Ukrainian civilians. And after that, they are threatening us nuclear weapon. Yeah. And it's a type of behavior, and people who understand real can understand their behavior.
Well, yeah, sure. Well, Vasil, we have come to the end of our interview. Definitely, we'll be in touch all the time. And I want you to stay safe, take care of yourself. And for all those who will be tuning in, I want to say have a blessed day and goodbye.